Hello everyone, my name is Brenden Pugh, and in today's video we're going to be talking about AI. Huzzah! So the question is coming up a lot. AI has really taken over our whole world and taken over everything that we do online and whatever, and so there's a lot of questions about it, and rightly so. Is it a good thing to use? Is it a bad thing to use? What are the ethics of using it? And I think everyone is trying to figure out how to navigate that and try to figure it out. And I'm kind of one of those people that's always in the middle on technology. I am a technology guy. I do love technology. I love dealing with all of it and learning about it and all that kind of thing. But I'm definitely always someone who's in the middle. So like the Apple Vision Pro is a great example. If I look at the Apple Vision Pro, I think, man, the technology of that is super cool. There's so many great use cases. There's so many great ways to use it. There's a lot of interesting and cool things that are going to come from the Apple Vision Pro. On the other hand, I definitely don't think that we should be walking around with essentially an iPhone or a Mac computer strapped to our face all of the time. And I think there's going to be some social consequences to that. I think there's going to be some issues with that down the road. So again, with any new technology, there's always this kind of what's the right way to use it? What's the wrong way to use it? Yes, it can be helpful, but also it can be destructive. And so our job is to figure out how to deal with that. Artificial intelligence has really risen a lot, especially since the beginning of ChatGPT, and has basically taken over the whole world, and it is definitely not going away. And I think that it's wise of all of us to not just either write it off and also not just jump into it and use it right away. So I think it's important for us as artists to consider, how do we use this as a tool? What's a right way to use it? What's a wrong way to use it? What works for the artist to keep their artistic integrity while still using it as something that could maybe help them along the way. AI has and will continue to change the world. It's definitely, again, as I said, not going away. And so I think I've always maintained, and I've said this before in other videos, those who can maintain their artistic creativity and their artistic integrity will always do better than things that are created completely from AI. I think that we as humans still want to connect with a real author, a real human, a real filmmaker. Part of the reason again, I've said this before, part of the reason I love Lord of the Rings is because I also like to study about Tolkien. I like Brandon Sanderson's books, not just because of his books, but because of Brandon Sanderson himself. I like to know the author. I like to know who is behind creating it. There's a lot of filmmakers like that. People love the original Star Wars and George Lucas because in part of the story of George Lucas. And so I think that those who can still create originally and those who can create without kind of undermining themselves artistically and not using AI just straight up to create the thing, but to use it as a tool to help you create the thing, those types of artists will still always be ahead of those who are just using it to create it, just using the AI to create the thing. So like anything else, I think that there's a time and a place for AI. I think you can use it as a tool. And the way that I kind of define a tool in the artistic sense, and in most cases, is that a tool is something that does not create anything on its own, but it can be used by a creator to create something. So in this next part, I'm going to show you what I created using ChatGPT and their custom GPT function. And I'm going to show you how to use it as a tool to help you create, but not to create the thing itself. Before we get into the actual creation of a custom GPT for yourself, well, let's talk quickly about what that is. ChatGPT came out a year or so ago with this functionality to create your own GPTs. And so what they describe a GPT as is a personal use case, a specific use case of ChatGPT. So you can give it your own set of rules, you can give it your own information, you can give it this whole you can kind of create this ChatGPT specifically around a certain topic or function that you're trying to achieve. So I recently discovered this and I've been experimenting a little bit, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to show you the rules that I put in place to monitor and keep the GPT in check. And then I'm going to show you kind of how to build it yourself for your own works. So before we jump into how to create a GPT for yourself, I'm going to jump into the backside of this one that I created for me, and I'm going to show you some of the setup that goes into it. So right here, if you go to this top bar, I can edit my GPT and I'll get into the back portion of this, the settings. So you have two sides to this. Right here, you have this create side and configure side. The create side, I found when I did this the first time, I used the create side a lot. Essentially, it's you chatting with the builder and it builds it based on what you chat about. I didn't think that I got the best results from that, and so it's best to me to go to the configure tab. We'll talk about later on how to go into this fresh and how I used the create tab to start, but then go over to the configure tab and set it up a little more manually. So on this left side, you have the builder for the GPT, and then on this side is a preview for the GPT to show you what you're building. So we're just going to go over to the configure, and I'm going to show you how I've got this set up. So I gave it a name, The Legends of Ascaradoth. The description is it's a searchable reference for The Legends of Ascaradoth. So we got this right here. It shows it up on the bottom on the right side. In the instructions, essentially, what this is I'm designed specifically to provide information and questions regarding The Legends of Ascaradoth, a rich and expansive story created by Brenden Pugh. So that's what it's supposed to do. And it has a few other things in there to clarify, give it some general outline of what it's supposed to do. But the real magic happens here. So below this, I've created a rules section. And this is the very important part. I'm going to give you this so that because my goal with this was I want a reference guide that's searchable, that's usable, that I can create with and use it to find information about my story. But I don't want the GPT itself to create anything ever. And so I created this set of rules. The first rule is to never create anything. The second rule is never offer advice about the story or plot points. Number 3 is never create outlines, story arcs, or anything pertaining to the story. Number 4 is never make suggestions. Number 5 is never to write prose. And number 6 is only to provide data and reference. Okay? And a 7th one that you could put in here would be only pull information from the knowledge base. And we'll get into what that is here in a second. So those are the rules. Now you might think to yourself, some of those are overlapping a little, and they are, but I did it on purpose because I really want to make sure that it cannot misinterpret anything I'm asking it to do, because I do not want this giving me any sort of input. I only want it to give me outputs based on the information it already has. So if I go in here now, if I test this, we'll see, hopefully this will work, but I'll test this and say, create me an outline. Here, we'll do this. Give me new ideas for a new book. So I'll throw that in there. Give it a moment. Okay. So this is what it's saying. So I'm here to help you navigate the vast world of Legends of Ascaradoth, but I can't generate new content or provide new book ideas. If you're interested in exploring existing storylines, characters, or elements of the universe for inspiration, I can certainly assist with that. So there, it's doing what it's supposed to do, where it is not supposed to create anything. Can you write the first paragraph of book 1? We'll just test it, show you kind of what it does. So again, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Opening of book 1 of Wolves and Wizards and Legends of Ascaradoth series begins with an evocative scene that sets the stage for the epic narrative to follow, but I must clarify that I cannot directly create or write new content for the series, including producing verbatim excerpts of the books. However, based on the available details in the compendium, I can summarize or discuss themes, characters, and story arcs to help you dive deeper into the story's beginning or any other aspect you're curious about. So again, it is doing what it is supposed to be doing, where it does not create anything. So those are the rules. I'll put those down in the description below too, so you can just copy paste them into your own GPT, which we'll get into later. The next section here we'll talk about is the conversation starters. These don't really matter much. This is just kind of the, you can give it like this. If there's something that you generally ask it or something you generally go through, then you can give it that specific question. So then it would pop up on the bottom before you start chatting. And then finally, this is where the most important part, or the second most important part, comes in, and that is the knowledge that you can upload. This is kind of the brain, the information that you give it. So the first thing is to know that you can only upload 20 documents to each custom GPT. But each of those documents can be huge. So you have a lot of space here to add what you need. I'm going to recommend, and I'm still kind of playing with this. I'm going to recommend that I have one document that is all of my outlines for everything. So it starts at the top with book 1. It's got the synopsis of book 1. It's got the characters that are going to be in it. And then it's got all of the outlines for that book, etc., all the way down to the chapter outline. And then it goes to the next book. And so literally everything is all in one document for outlines. Then the next thing I would do is go in and create a character outline or a character sheet that's got all of your characters in it. So just every single character in order with all of their character sheet information, and then just keep going. And again, these documents can be huge. So I would start with that. I would have this one massive one for your outlines. Then I would have one for characters, locations, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, you can upload your actual prose documents. So if you write the book, you have your first draft or your second draft, you can then upload that to this. I've been experimenting doing all of these with PDFs, but it does accept other file formats. There may be some file formats that help do things faster, but I haven't really experimented with that yet, so I'm not quite sure. I've been doing everything as a PDF because I know that the PDF will work and become searchable. So right here, I've been kind of just experimenting, but I have a couple of outlines and things for my one series I'm working on, and then I have my full outline for everything. I've been dating them because I do update them occasionally. And then finally, what you want to do is you come down here on your capabilities. I've turned off web browsing because I do not want this pulling any other information from anywhere. I just want it pulling it from the knowledge base here. I turned off image generation because I don't want that, but I left on code interpreter because that helps it interpret these documents that are in there. So that is kind of what I have set up for my GPT. I'm going to now walk you through how to create your own from scratch. So to create your own GPT from scratch, and then to do what I showed you in the last section, we're going to go to Explore GPTs. You're going to go up here. So if you look down here, this is all the different GPT things that are already been created that you can use if you want. But I'm going to go to Create a GPT. And again, you have these two sides. You have this create side and you have the configure side. I find it much easier to just go manual and use the configure side because it doesn't really, the create side I feel like doesn't always do everything you want it to do. So add yourself a icon if you want to, or you can have it generate one for you. Give it a name, so you can call it My Series. Give it a description to provide reference My Series. And then give it your instructions. So I would always give it a little paragraph of what you want it to do. And then you go down and you give it that set of rules. Another rule I'm going to actually add potentially is to, when I ask it about story details, to make sure to show me any discrepancies between the outlines that I've given it and the information I've given it. That might be one that I'm going to add, but we'll see. So add in your description, add in your rules. You can add your conversation starters if you want, and then upload your files. Make sure to check these capabilities. So you turn off web browsing, turn off the DALL-E image generation, and add code interpreter. Click upload your files. You can upload the PDFs that you create, and then you go to create here. And now you can do a couple of things. This is very important. You can do only me. You can share anyone with a link or publish to the GPT store. So you do not want this one for this particular use case. You can go to anyone with the link if you have maybe a writing partner. So I've done this, anyone with the link, and I've shared this with my brother Aiden over at AuthorQuest because sometimes he helps me with things. And so this would be kind of a way for him to help me if he wants to use it. And then, or you can do only me. I suggest kind of doing only me. We're going to share. It's going to take a minute to load. Go to View GPT, and now it shows up here on your sidebar. So anytime you want to go to it, you just click on it, ask it the questions you want to ask, and there you go. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Writing Quest. I hope you learned something. I hope that I was able to show you a possible way forward of how to use AI and ChatGPT and keep your creative integrity intact. Again, I'm still experimenting with this. I'm still testing it out. I haven't really decided every way that I want to use it and how I could use it. So definitely, like, I'm exploring this, and I hope that you are interested in exploring it too. So ask your questions down below, put it in the comments if you have any concerns. If you like, I want to know what you guys think. This whole idea of AI is really interesting, and it's still unexplored, and we're still trying to figure out how to use it as artists. And so this is just one way that I'm exploring it. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video. Don't forget to check out our Notion templates, the storybook templates that we've created for helping writers write their stories. It's just another tool that you can have in the toolbox. Also, check out our merch. We got some hats and some other things. And so thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time on Writing Quest. Huzzah!